Mirigis mostly works in two regions, Latin America and Europe. We used to say Eastern Europe, now we say Europe because there's a big migration of people from Eastern Europe to Western Europe, and so the borders are sort of erasing. But we do focus on these two regions. We do explore some other regions as well, but that's where our expertise. One thing that we have to advise clients on, and we get this question a lot, but sometimes even we answer the question without being asked. When you come in and you say, I'm looking for an engineer X, Y, and Z with certain skill set for a certain type of company, we always go, are you open to Eastern Europe? Do you want to do Latin America? Either. What do you want to do? There are obvious differences, and the one most obvious difference is the time zone. Latin America is very well aligned with the US time zones in terms of people work more or less the same hours. Europe is less aligned, even though, and it's very important to remember, people don't believe it, but it's true. Time zone with Europe is not a problem. Europe, Eastern Europe, tends to work later hours. So they naturally shift their hours. You're not going to find an engineer in Eastern Europe coming to work or starting work at 8 o'clock in the morning. It's just not going to happen. But you're very likely to find one that's working at 8, 9 o'clock in the afternoon or in the evening. And that provides enough hours where it's not an issue, enough overlap hours where it's absolutely not an issue. And I can tell you this from many clients that we have, many people that we have. Not once, 11 years I've been running Mirigis, I have not once heard the complaint there is not enough overlap because the person is in Europe. I've heard other complaints. That's not one of them. But it's important to understand that it's not always true that you can hire in either region, or more correct, that you should hire in any region. There are differences that will influence your decision and should influence your decision. For example, if you're an early stage startup and you're building, you've got 2 or 3 people engineering team and you're hiring 1 or 2 more people, I would highly encourage you to consider Eastern Europe. A lot more ownership, a lot more independence, a lot more drive to get things done, but also a lot less follow through on the process, a lot less let me ask before I do something, and definitely a lot less yes sir type of attitude. They're going to argue, they're going to defend their decision. Doesn't mean they're going to be stubborn about it. Well, sometimes they'll be stubborn about it, but they will be pragmatic and open and not afraid to voice their opinion. However, if you've got, a 20 people team and you're looking to hire 1 or 2 people to fully integrate into that team, establish processes, everything's done, I do encourage you to look at Latin America. Time zone alignment helps because most of your people are already working in a certain time zone, so it fits in better. They're more likely to follow your process. They're more likely to understand the directive and follow the instruction, as opposed to understand the directive and ignore the instruction. Each has its pluses and minuses. If you're building a self-sustained team, a lot of times people come to us and say, I'm building a new pod, I'm building a new Scrum team, so I need to hire the company already exists, the engineering department already exists, but I'm hiring more people and I need to build a brand new group with its own tech lead and few people working with them. I do encourage you to look at Eastern Europe in that case. You will probably find a fundamentally stronger engineer that can better build a team around them or a pod around them. And because they're going to be working together, yes, it might be a different time zone from where you're located, but they will be within the same time zone. There are so many differences. Even within the region, things are not the same. Let's talk about Latin America. The number 1 country where we hire all across Latin America. Anything from Mexico down to, the southern point of South America. And we have people almost in every country. Definitely majority of them. There are some differences. Argentina, very culturally aligned with the US. Excellent English, great communication. Costa Rica, small country, but it's in top 5 in terms of where we hire people from. Native like English. Sometimes you're not even sure, is this person really not in the US? Not only because of the English, but because of cultural awareness. They understand, they know, they live US culture. Another country that is amazing for talent is Brazil, but Brazil speaks Portuguese. Now, many people in Brazil speak Spanish as well, And obviously everybody speaks English, right? So we're talking about English speakers. But if you're building a team fully in Latin America, do you expect them to operate in English between themselves, or do you expect that they'll speak Spanish among themselves? So that's a question that will influence your decision. How does Brazil integrate into that formula? Mexico, the wildest card of all. Obviously, borders with the United States, closest. If you ever want to travel, it's the easiest to travel to just because of how close it is. But you get the widest range of English knowledge. You get the widest range of technical skills. You get the widest range of probably every aspect, even prices. We get the cheapest engineers in Mexico and we get the most expensive engineers in Mexico. It's just all over the range. Same is true in Europe. Migration in Europe affected things a lot in the last several years. Used to be you went to Ukraine and you hired Ukrainian engineers, or you could hire in Portugal engineers that live in Portugal. Well, today you've got Ukrainian engineers living in Portugal, Spain, Germany, UK, all over the world. So that border shifted by a lot. But not everything is the same. EU has a very significant and developed internal job. A lot of people from certain countries, Romania, Slovenia, Bulgaria, they're employed by EU companies. Employment laws, pay, everything affects on where do you recruit from. Where other countries are more open to be working with, far located countries like US. There is truly no answer what region is better, but there is an answer what may work better for your particular situation. And your particular situation may actually differ depending on the current need. You may need to hire an engineer to be integrated with an existing team and at the same time building a new team. So the answer may be different for this hire. That's what we do. We have that expertise, and our job and our whole objective, we align with you, and we only succeed when we hire the best people for you. So never you'll hear me say, this country is better, that country is better, but you will hear me say, for that particular need, I would probably consider this location versus that location.